We're thrilled to have Deanne Fitzmaurice tonight. It's a real honor to have a Nikon ambassador, the think tank co-founder, and a Pulitzer Prize winner to present with us. I'm really, really thrilled to have her. I want to thank Pro Photo Daily, American Photography, Epson, Photo Shelter, and B&H for helping us out over the course of the year. But I am thrilled to give you Deanne Fitzmaurice, my friend. So Deanne, you share your screen and off we go.
All right, let me hit play. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we have the full screen. You're great, Deanne.
Okay, great. Then let's do this. First of all, I want to say, Frank, thank you so much for what you contribute to the photo community with hosting these projections. I mean, it really means a lot. And it's so great to have community places like this where we can get together and share work. So thank you for that.
You're nice.
I also want to thank everybody for showing up this evening. Really excited to share some work with you. So I put a lot of things together here. There's quite a variety, just kind of this wild journey that I've been on. Let's see. I am going to share with you some lessons I've learned along the way and, trials and tribulations. So,
Yeah, Deanne, where are you originally from? Give us a little bit of that, as a young person.
yes. Yeah. I'm originally from Boston. I grew up in Massachusetts and you grew up on Cape Cod, actually. And after high school, I was about 18 and it's like California was calling. So I bought an old van, a 40 Econoline, and my best friend and I jumped in this van to drive across the country to California. My mom said, Deanne, that van isn't even going to make it out of town, let alone to California. And she was right. We got about as far as New Jersey and the engine blew up. So it turned out to be a great lesson to me that really helped me as a photojournalist, figuring out how to problem solve. How do I get to California? I've got a van with a blown up engine. So anyway, one thing led to another. But, everything I do, I'm always learning lessons along the way. And that was, I definitely learned to, figure things out. So came to California, fell in love with it, and ended up going to the Academy of Art in San Francisco and got my degree, Bachelor of Fine Arts in Photography. And so, yeah, so let's just start here. I want to, this is a little lesson I want to share with everyone. It's like we probably all do this. I spent so much time thinking about, okay, America 250 is coming up. How do I tell this story? And I spent way too long, years actually, reading books, looking at maps, plotting out routes. And, you know, I just realized I have to stop researching and just get out the door. So I ended up just heading out to Route 66. It's also the 100th anniversary, and just got out on the road and started photographing. And it started happening. The magic started happening.
But that, Deanne, what was the reason why you felt it was hard to like get out? Like you were doing the research. What was it that didn't make you go out the door?
I didn't have a clear plan, and I
Mm.
thought I needed a clear plan. But, there really isn't a clear plan. I think you just have to have the intention and move forward.
And did someone tell you that, or like the light went off in your head?
It was a reminder,
Yeah.
once I got out and started photographing and all the magic started happening, it was just a reminder. I said, why did I spend so long thinking about this? I should have just gone.
Mm.
So I ended up down on Route 66 and I started doing these multiple exposures about America. And it became so interesting to me. And I think this is the work that you saw, Frank,
Yeah.
where you asked me to come on. Um, I needed a way to tell the story of America in a more nuanced way. So I just started doing in camera multiple exposures. And I'm going to get back to this later on in the show.
Okay.
So, about growing up, my father was a fighter pilot in World War II. And from him, I learned to be fearless. That is him, Raymond Fitzmaurice. My mom, she was a librarian. And from her, I learned the love of storytelling. Our home was always filled with books. Now, these two traits, fearlessness and storytelling, have really helped me in my career as a photojournalist.
And did your mom and dad get to see your success?
Yes, yes, it was pretty incredible. I was actually able to bring them to my Pulitzer winning ceremony at
Is that
Columbia
right?
University, which was pretty special.
Yeah, great,
It
great.
was really, really a special time.
What a gift for
Just,
them, huh?
yeah, being able to share that with them made it even more powerful. But some early work here. So, as I said, went to the Academy of Art. Next thing I know, I'm working at the San Francisco Chronicle. It's the 50th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge. I end up on the top tower of the Golden Gate Bridge, scouting out a location. And here I am early on. I've got my Nikon camera, my white Reeboks, as we all did. And yeah, so, the fearlessness came in handy here.
Yeah, I mean, you look so casual, like you're walking along Fisherman's Wharf. I mean, my God,
I
you look
know
like a
it.
tourist with your camera. That's so funny.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, really.
And when you look at that photograph, Dan, do you remember being there,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
as like a real moment, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow,
And I
wow.
just kept telling myself, don't look down, keep looking at the horizon.
Yeah, I think Jamie hit it best in the chat room when he wrote, "Holy shit."
Okay. Well, you're going to have to share me the chats because I can't
Yeah.
see them.
Okay. That's funny.
Okay. Yeah. So everyone came out to celebrate the anniversary.
Wow.
And this is the resulting photo from up above. I set up a remote up there. And one of my first big sports assignments was the World Series. So it was 1989, and it was the Oakland A's were playing against the San Francisco Giants. So it was not since 1911 have two teams in the same market faced each other in the World Series.
That's McGuire, and I'll take a guess. Will Clark?
You got it. You got it.
Is
You're
that right?
good.
Okay.
You're good. You're good.
Well, okay.
And and by the way, I'm married to another photographer, Kurt Rogers. This is us at Candlestick Park during another game.
How
But
nice.
he worked for the competition. I worked for the Chronicle. He worked for the Examiner, and so we would we had friendly competition over the years. So I photographed game one and game two. Hey, there's Willie Mays in the
Yeah,
back
I see him
for
straight
you.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I photographed game one and game two, and for game three, Kurt and I were off. So we were planning on, let's just get some food and drinks and just go home and watch the game. So we go to the grocery store. On the way home, the car just starts rocking like crazy. We look next door, there's a gas station, and the canopy overhead is shaking like crazy. And we realize we're having a major earthquake.
Oh, right. I remember that. Yeah.
And so on my two-way radio, I hear my editor, communications were down and just through a crackly connection. It's Fitzmaurice and helicopter. So I knew what I had to do.
Really.
This is the Cypress Freeway, where about 45 of the 63 deaths occurred here.
Mm.
So, I just thought I was photographing the World Series, and then this major story comes along. And this is the Marina District, which is one of the hardest hit areas. Okay, now I was thinking about you when I put this in here, Frank. So, Barry Bonds. he was one of the, the biggest players in the early 2000s. He was, played for the San Francisco Giants. And here he is. He was really part of baseball royalty because his godfather was Willie Mays. Here they are together in the locker room.
Yeah.
You have to hit that. Okay. But he was breaking every one of the home run records, actually shattering the home run records. But he was very difficult to photograph. He did not like being photographed, did not like photographers. He intimidated all of us. And, I just couldn't figure out what it was about him, why he was intimidating us. And, even with his dad here, the great Bobby Bonds, his father, he was just standoffish.
Yeah.
And, we were all terrified of him. But I was curious. I was curious what made him tick. And I wanted to photograph him off the field and just figure out who he was as a person. Why was he intimidating us? What was the story? And so I went through the regular channels. I went to the Giants and asked them, and they just laughed and said, "There is no way that's going to happen." Then they said, "Oh, check with his agent." So I asked his agent. His agent said, "No way, you're not going to photograph Barry off the field." So next thing I end up at spring training in Arizona. And when I get there, I see Barry. He comes walking across the field, and whereas most of the other players, start running around the field, he just came and he sat down on the field. So I swung my long lens over to photograph him. He looked at me and glared at me like he was furious that I would dare photograph him.
This way, yeah.
At that moment, something changed in me, and I just wasn't going to take it anymore.
Mm.
And so I just went walking up to him. Now I know the media behind me, they were probably petrified for me walking up to him about what might happen. And I didn't even know what I was going to say to him as I was walking up there. But I said, "Barry, do you have a problem with me photographing you? And if so, are there some boundaries that I should know about?" He paused, looked at me, said, "Nope, I don't have a problem. What's your name and who are you shooting for?" I said, "Deanne Fitzmaurice. I'm shooting for the San Francisco Chronicle." And he thought about it. He said, "Okay, I'll call you D." That moment changed everything. He broke down this wall and let me into his world. And so, here I'm photographing him in the locker room, which is usually off limits. But if Barry says it's okay, it's okay. You can see the other players have a common area, but in front of their lockers, they only have a little white folding chair. And Barry has a big leather recliner, big screen TV, and a whole wing of lockers. So I said to him, I said, "Barry, your fans really want to know who you are. I want to photograph you, behind the scenes at home with your family." Next thing I know, I'm in his living room.
Wow. So that initial movement on the field there, you're channeling your dad,
Right, exactly.
right? I'm gonna
Yeah,
be fearless. I don't care. I mean, how bad could it be, right?
yeah, exactly. And it's just, every once in a while. But, it turned out to be just, I learned a lot in that moment. I just learned a lot, and it changed my photography after that. I
Is that right?
learned, yeah, because early on, I felt like I wasn't supposed to connect to people. I wasn't supposed to,
Mm.
change the situation at all. So I just really stand back, and I wasn't making a connection with people I was photographing. I feel like maybe I was saying what they might want me to say.
Mm.
But at that moment, I said, "I'm just going to speak from my heart and see what happens." And so I just started doing that. I just started being much more honest with myself
Mm.
and with people that I photographed. And I think people can read through. They know if you're being honest or not. So,
What?
so one day I was photographing him in the locker room, and he says, "Hey, D," and actually in the weight room. He says, "Hey, D, I want you to, I want you to meet my workout partners. So these are the kind of surprises that I just live for, the pictures that you could not imagine before you went out on a shoot. I did not expect his workout partners to be this.
Yeah, who could, right? My God.
Right, right, exactly. But, I realized if you treat people like human beings, sometimes they'll just open up and show you who they really are.
So, I mean, is this one of one of the many defining moments of a career?
I think so, like for me, yes, it did. It did really change things. It changed how I work. And it also helped me a lot with my freelance career because I shot this while I was still at the Chronicle. And after I did this story, Sports Illustrated reached out to me and they said, "Hey, Deanne, how did you get these photos of Barry Bonds?" And I said, "I just asked him." And they couldn't believe it because nobody had gotten anything like this before with him. And he was the biggest name in all of baseball. So they asked me to start photographing for them. I said, "I can't, I'm on staff." But a few years later, when I left the Chronicle, I started working regularly for Sports Illustrated and ESPN and other publications doing behind the scenes with athletes.
And so you go home after that first night and you tell Kirk, you can't believe this, right? I mean, like, what is going on in your home that, because you must go home like you found the cookie jar.
It was never that easy. It looks like the switch was just turned on and he said yes, but
Mm.
there were so many ups and downs with this throughout the
Wow.
season. Like, for example, he says, "Oh, yeah, you can come on the road with me." So I fly out to a 2-game road trip, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And he completely shut me down. He said, "Nope,
Mm.
no more access for you." And it was just one of these things I had to keep
Right.
working through. And it just wasn't easy.
Mhm.
So it was always ups and downs.
Right. Okay. Good. Good to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just the reality, I think. This was Barry's last game as a San Francisco Giant. And you can see I'm supposed to be up there where the other photographers are, but I knew this was a better storytelling angle.
Okay.
So the security guard at this spot, Carlos, throughout the season, I always stopped and, said hello, how's your daughter doing? And so at this moment, he saw what I was trying to do and he let me hang back for just a minute to get this photo.
Mm.
Because, I've just learned that no one is inconsequential, and it's just
Yeah.
about treating everyone, with respect.
Yeah. As you look at this photograph, that's a real male-dominated world you're living in, other than this one young woman on the
Mhm.
right, right? I mean,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yep. Yeah.
mm,
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first started photographing sports and just in photojournalism, it was much more male dominated. Now, when I speak and teach in classes, I see there's a lot more women in the classes. So
yeah,
that's encouraging to see. Okay. And, they all start somewhere. And this was the Cape Cod Baseball League, the elite league for college level players. So I went and I spent some time with them. I photographed this for the Players Tribune. It was an interesting story to do because the players live with local families. So I met some interesting characters along the way. And so while we're in baseball, a couple of things. ESPN sent me to photograph the Oklahoma Sooners a couple of years ago. So I'm kind of bouncing around on the timeline here a little bit. But behind the scene with the most winning team in all of baseball, their record was 52-1. But again, the editors really love it when I get some of the behind the scenes
mm.
photos.
And Dean, is this you selling the idea, or they had the idea and you're the person to go and do it?
Good question. Now, it goes both ways. Sometimes
Mm.
I pitch it. The Cape Cod Baseball League, I pitched that. This one was assigned to me.
Okay,
So it goes both ways, I would say.
right.
But, it's about building the relationships with editors so they know your work and trust you so you can reach out to them with story ideas.
Beautiful.
And then some baseball players make it all the way to the top. This is Tim Lincecum, San
Mhm.
Francisco Giants World Series 2010. He's the pitcher
Freak,
of
the
game one.
freak.
The Freak, exactly. He was known as the Freak. I ended up following him all season long this season. So I got lucky in that sense. I was shooting for Sports Illustrated, and it was just incredible that they actually went to the World Series on the year I was photographing him. But again, the same kind of ups and downs with Tim. He'd give me access and then he'd pull it back. So this is the World Series, San Francisco AT&T Park,
Mhm.
2012.
Hey, a question for you in the chat room, Deanne.
Yeah.
Did your college schooling prepare you for a photojournalism career or more of a fine art career? And how did it prepare you? I was under the impression it was more of a fine art program than a journalism program. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You're right. The Academy of Art, it is more of a fine art program, a little bit commercial, but I took a lot of different classes in all different types of photography, which in some ways prepared me for being a photojournalist, but they didn't have a strong journalism program.
Mm.
So I took, one or two classes in photojournalism, but it was really on the street that I learned to be a photojournalist. I was lucky to join the staff of the Chronicle just a couple years after I graduated from college. And there was just an incredible staff of photographers at both the Examiner and the Chronicle, and I learned so much. So I learned about the ethics of journalism and all these things while I was, you know, on staff and out there photographing.
Yeah, and as you're going through this journey, what is the role your parents are playing?
They're just standing back and saying, Whoa, where are you now? You were just on top of the Golden
Yeah.
Gate Bridge. Now you're going to Iraq. So they're just kind of keeping an eye on it. But, they were very, very supportive. My mother always just said, she was a stay-at-home mom. It was that era. And she just wanted me to have a career. And and both my parents, they just kind of pushed me to have a fulfilling career. And
Mm,
yeah, so I feel very fortunate about that. This
beautiful.
is the, again, a little bit football, the Michigan Wolverines. Now, I know I'm showing a lot of sports right now, but I'm going to like jump into all kinds of other topics. Um, ESPN sent me to photograph the Michigan Wolverines training with the Navy SEALs.
Wow.
Now, to go back a little bit, so I was at the Chronicle, I was learning to photograph football. Like I said, kind of learning it out there while I'm doing it. So I wanted to figure out how to photograph football, how to get good at it. And, I wanted to get the pictures you see in Sports Illustrated with the ball going into the receiver's hands. So one day I was at Candlestick Park photographing Steve Young, the 49ers, and he's throwing the ball deep to John Taylor. And I'm here on the sidelines, long lens, monopod, and, kind of like this. And John Taylor is running straight towards me full speed. And I'm just thinking, oh no, this is where I die. But I had always heard from other photographers, if you're on the sidelines and a player's running toward you, don't try to get up, just get low and they'll jump over you. So I knew that in my head, but natural instinct is you start to get up. So I'm halfway up and he's right there in front of me, full speed. He put his arms under my arms, lifted me up, and carried me with him all the way to the stands.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Yeah, the announcer says, Whoa, John Taylor just picked up a young lady.
That's great. So, and how is this working out with your relationship with Kirk? Like, where are you guys? You're both shooting, I guess, some of the same events. I mean,
Yeah.
how does that work for a married couple?
Oh, it's great because he is so easygoing.
Right.
He's just very easygoing. I'm the more competitive of the two of us. And he's been incredibly supportive, throughout my whole career, just incredibly supportive. He's always encouraging me. He probably just wants a little peace and quiet at home, but he's always encouraged me. Yeah, yeah, go shoot this, go do that. And I travel quite a bit. And he's just great. I feel very, very fortunate. He's a great guy.
Great.
So, I showed you a little bit about football, kind of where it starts, with the college players. And so then here I am photographing the Super Bowl. It was 2020. So it was the eve of the pandemic. It was February of 2020. It was in Miami. And so I started to figure out how to photograph football, but editors would always say, we want action, but we also want some of your behind the scenes work. So, this is a big fourth quarter interception. So I've started to be able to get some plays. The equipment improved too, because early on when I started, it was all autofocus lenses. I don't even know how I got anything in focus.
Mm.
Halftime show, J-Lo. And that game, Travis Kelce or Mr. Taylor Swift was there. And, just always looking for something. I try to bring kind of an artistic feel whenever I can into the image. How can I take it beyond the obvious? And sometimes I get luckier than other times.
Yeah, you use a word that we really frown upon, Deanne. I have to tell you, luck. We don't like that word. You know, you guys are too great, you photographers, that it's luck. It's yeah, so don't use it again.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I know what you're saying, but I do feel like I put myself in a position where some luck might happen.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Luck is stricken from my vocabulary, at least for the rest
Yeah.
of this talk. You can dig
Okay.
me if I say it again.
All right.
Okay. And along football, we have Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
It was a big controversy in football when he kneeled on the sidelines protesting systemic racism.
Is this during that period of time or after? Do you remember, Deanne?
Yeah, yeah, it was just shortly after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it was like hard because his career, he was just going through a lot at that
Yeah.
time.
His career ended by that. Yeah.
It did. It did. Yeah. Yeah. So Sports Illustrated sent me to photograph 49er fans while they were, in the playoffs. And so, it's just, I went to this bar. It was a gay bar, and it was about the fans, the 49er fan base. And, so you just wait for a moment, and sometimes skill comes into play.
God, see how easy that was, Deanne?
Okay. Um, this is a picture from a project I did at the Chronicle about sex trafficking, about young women who were sex trafficked. And so we traveled around a little bit, a writer, Meredith May, and I wasn't able to show their identity, which was really challenging. So I had to come up with some creative ways to photograph these young women. This is a story I did for Sports Illustrated about Michael Vick's dogs. Remember,
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
had
sure.
he had the big dog ring, and it was like dog fighting, and
Yeah.
and so some of these pit bulls were rescued, and some of them came to San Francisco. So I
Wow.
photographed them. Okay, we're jumping around now. So like some of this is kind of, I think mostly I have left the Chronicle at this point, and I'm going on doing different things, doing
So
some.
you're freelance now.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
think I think I've shown anything from like my except for one project that I'm going to show you. Um, but I started traveling around and teaching workshops and things. So I ended up in Morocco. I was teaching a workshop with PhotoQuest Adventures, this wonderful women-led company. And when you see goats in a tree, you do stop and photograph them.
My God.
Crazy, isn't it?
You have to. Like, yeah.
and Mavericks, big wave competition here in the Bay Area. I was up there on a boat, and it's pretty rough, but you gotta pull it together.
Mm. And as you're doing these freelance, is somebody paying you for that, or are you doing it all on your own and then trying to sell it?
No, it was mostly assignment. It was
Okay.
mostly assignment base. Yeah, like Mavericks, I shot for Sports Illustrated. That one I pitched to them. Most of the others, they had assigned me.
Mm. And,
Um,
and the Sports Illustrated came back, even though at a different period in your career you couldn't do it, but then you reached back out to them and they took you right on. That's great.
exactly, yeah. And then, for my, when I started freelancing, they were calling me regularly, so that was really great.
Wow.
But I do think it was because of that Bonds project. So, I was
Yeah.
just taking a chance. This is up in Pine Ridge Reservation. This is in Paris.
That's great. That's a
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Sometimes it's about juxtapositions.
That's lucky.
Hey, wait, I thought we weren't using that
Sorry.
word. Oh.
So someone asked, the shot of the couple kissing in the bar in San Francisco.
Mhm.
Did you get a release on that, Deanne?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a release with them. With the editorial work, I really haven't felt like I've needed to. If it's going to be commercial, absolutely. I think it's always good to get a release whenever you can,
Yeah.
but I made sure that they knew what I was doing. I was clear with them. I said,
Mhm.
introduce myself. I'm photographing for Sports Illustrated. And then after I got that kiss, I said, you guys okay with this? If my editor publishes this. And so I communicated with them on it and they were fine.
Right. So a shot like this, are you waiting for someone to come into the screen, or you're walking by and you see, and I got to take this shot?
I was walking by and I saw it. And
Yeah.
so then it was like, wait a minute, did I just see
Okay.
what I saw? And so I just backed up about 3 steps and got down low. And yeah.
And are you shooting that day, or is this something that you just came upon on a Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I kind of came upon on a Saturday afternoon. I was just kind of walking around Paris,
This is the
photographing.
Luxembourg Gardens?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Or no, I think it's the other one.
The
Anyway, I don't,
Tuileries? The Tuileries?
yes, yes, yes. That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. And I had an assignment to photograph the world's tallest dog, Gibson. And when I got there, his best friend, this little Chihuahua, shows up
Oh, God.
and it made the photo.
Yeah.
Burning Man, it's incredibly visual. I went out there on assignment.
And how long do you stay? Like, so someone says cover Burning Man. Is it a week? Is it 2 weeks? How long, Deanne?
This one I actually shot for the Chronicle. I was there for about 3 days.
3 days. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's always great when you have some time, to really spend. They offered branding for first timers at Burning Man. Yes, this guy is actually getting branded.
Ouch.
Yeah.
How high was this guy? Or
He was
drunk?
feeling no pain.
Yeah, I hope so. Great.
This is a story about Jabari Parker for Sports Illustrated. And it was about, he was a big basketball player and he was going back to work with the kids in his neighborhood. He grew up in the south side of Chicago. It was, pretty rough. And so he would go back to give back to these kids.
Yeah,
Little
it's pretty cool to be in that space where the editors think of you. If we need something behind the scenes, Deanne is the person,
Yeah, exactly. It
right?
was,
Like you own that space.
yeah. So I think it's good to have some kind of a niche,
Yeah.
but but I think as a photojournalist, we have to be able to photograph anything. But I think having a niche is important, and it just kind of happened accidentally because of that moment with Bonds. This is for ESPN. Steph Curry. He does this. sensory deprivation in a hot tub. LeBron, I photographed the NBA Finals for ESPN. Steph Curry after they won the championship a few years ago. And he was supposed to be on this cable car bus, but he just decided to break loose and go walking down the street. Fortunately, I was able to get in front of him and get this moment.
You have sharp elbows, right, Deanne?
Yeah, I do. I do. I file them every night. Okay, so I've taken a few trips down to Cuba. The first one, I just went with a friend and we just went to photograph. I was intrigued by Cuba and just wanted to go experience it. And then that turned into every time I do something, it turns into other things. So I ended up teaching workshops down there. So I've taught 2 or 3 workshops down there since then.
Cuba never disappoints, right?
Oh,
Between the
it's
architect, the
incredible.
lighting, right? I mean, it never disappoints.
Exactly. The colors and the people are just great. And
Yeah.
so this is a Wi-Fi corner, and these two two young women were out there just, doing their internet for a few minutes each day when they have an opportunity to. And you just see really interesting things. You just always have to have your camera ready when you're walking around Havana.
And what are you shooting with normally, Deanne?
I am shooting currently with a Nikon Z8. That's my main camera. I also have a Nikon Z6 III. But I'd say the Z8 is my go-to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Cuba is just something else, huh?
It's incredible, and it's like you go walking past a barber shop and it's like a party going on in there. The music blaring, everyone's having a great time, the barber's dancing. So it's so much fun. So I just went in there and spent a little bit of time.
And one face is more interesting than the next, right? They're such beautiful people.
They really are. And they're really just comfortable with themselves and, really easy to photograph. In 2008, I'd been following kind of the same-sex marriage story. And in 2008, the Supreme Court overturned a ban, and this couple, Frank and Joe, they had been together for about 8 years and they were able to get married. So I went and I photographed them. I spent some time with them. And, I was really just starting freelancing then, but I ended up going to Time Magazine. They published the story. And then at the end of the year, it was in the issue of Pictures That Mattered that year.
Right. And still, I mean, after everything you accomplish, getting in Time, getting in Newsweek, it's still special, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's great. It's like you do this work and you want it to be seen. You want to make a difference with the work. You want to get it out there.
Right. And in Cuba, do you speak Spanish, Deanne?
No, I don't. It's a very un poquito. Yeah, yeah, very, very minimal. So,
And so you have a fixer with you,
let's see.
or
Yeah,
something being there?
for the workshops that I teach, we do. We have, yeah, we have a fixer with us, and so that works out great. The first time I went down there, I went with a friend, and she speaks Spanish, so that was great.
And what is this scene, Deanne?
Okay, yeah. So, a few pictures here from the pandemic. So,
Ah, okay.
yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things. I was trying to figure out how people kept faith during the pandemic. And I went to this church in San Francisco, and the people, the congregants had to support Father Greg. They had all sent in selfies of themselves, and so that he had support when he did the streaming services. And then I showed up one Sunday and he was about to give his streaming service and he was sprinkling holy water on the selfies.
Hmm. So it's not that those people had passed away. They sent those in, so he was conducting mass to them. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. And around that time, I heard that there was a starling murmuration in the next town over from me. And it was incredible because people were just dying to get outside. It's like we had all been cooped up. And it was incredible to witness this. It was like, it looked like it looked like a heart. I just couldn't believe it. But it's not unusual for a startling murmuration to happen over a cemetery, except when it happens during a global pandemic. So
Yeah,
people,
explain a little bit about this phenomenon if you know it.
yeah. So starlings, they come to one location to roost during their migration, and they stay in that place for about 2 weeks. And every evening at dusk, they go up and they do this incredible acrobatic display.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, for everyone, it must have been a good reason to get outside, right?
Absolutely. And, reconnect with nature and just to be together again.
Uh, wow.
And around that time, I heard that this woman, Brianna Noble, had rode her horse along with a protest in Oakland over the Black Lives Matter movement. It was like the movement was just beginning over George Floyd's murder. And so I was so intrigued by her. I needed to find out more about her. So, a lot of my work and a lot of my stories are they are grown out of curiosity, and I was just curious to know who she was. I reached out to her and was able to spend some time with her and photograph her. Now, you had asked about which of these stories have been assigned and which did I pitch. So this one, it was during the pandemic. It was a crazy time, so I just needed to go out and photograph. So I went out and I spent time with her and did a story. I kept going back and building a story about her. And then I got a note from an editor at the Hearst Corporation. And, it like they have all these magazines. And she said, Cosmopolitan is looking for some interesting stories. Do you have anything to submit? And so I submitted this story and they published it in Cosmopolitan. They published a big spread.
Yeah, I mean, the lesson also in that is you got to be self-motivated, huh, Deanne?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
can't wait for somebody else to call you. You got to go.
right, right. Just like I did with, Route 66,
Yeah,
just don't think about it, just go. For me, that's a huge lesson. That's what I need to do because things just happen. It's almost like if you just have the intention and move forward, things will fall into place. And so it did with this. But, like I said, it's important to have relationships with editors so that they will reach out to you. And
but they have you in a box. They know that, if we want an interesting story, or do you have anything? I mean, imagine that. They're coming to you. What do you already have? Right? I mean, that's pretty intense for you to be in their space that way.
yeah, yeah. And I had just finished shooting this story, so it worked out great.
Mm,
This is a earlier one that I did. Um, I photographed. This was pretty early. This was Iraq wartime, and I did a story on this soldier. He was from Arizona, and he answered the call to service, but he lost his legs in the war. So he came back, and I documented, his, just rehabilitation. Here he is with his daughter, who was dressed
mm, of
as Tinkerbell.
course. And with your stories, Dan, do it's from a payment standpoint, do you get more money, more or less money if you already have shot it and they're buying it from you, or going out and shooting it?
Mm,
And did they negotiate in such a way, well, you already have it, like what are you going to do with it? Like what is the dynamic?
yeah. It seems like every time it's a negotiation, and you're always trying to make sure that you're getting your, fair share. Um, it kind of goes both ways, really. I
Yeah,
wouldn't say it's any one way. It's always dynamics.
right. Okay.
And this is the story that I want to show you. This is the Pulitzer Prize winning project.
Right.
Now, so for a little bit of background on this story, these first three photos were provided by the family. And then, I jump in with my work. But just so you have an idea of the background. So the war had just begun. It was 2003. A little boy named Salah, 9 years old, is walking home from school with his brother, Dia, who was 16. Salah saw a shiny object, picked it up thinking it was a ball. It turned out to be a bomb. It
Mm.
blew up, killed his older brother, and severely injured him.
Wow.
His father, Rahim, came to the scene, saw what happened, picked up Salah, and just took him from one hospital to another to try to find someone to take care of him. Finally, at this Air Force base, this US Air Force base, this doctor, Dr. J. Johannigman, said, yes, I will take care of him. So he brought him in and stabilized him. So for 6 days, he took care of him. Salah, he died 6 times on the operating table, and he kept coming back. And the doctor nicknamed him Lionheart because he refused to die. At this point, he said, there's nothing more I can do for him. The only hope you have is to bring him to America. So through an incredible series of circumstances, he was brought to America for medical treatment. And this is where I picked up the story. I was working on staff at the San Francisco Chronicle, and my editor came running back to the lab. Hey, Deanne, we need you to go out to Children's Hospital, Oakland. There's a little boy who's brought in from Iraq. We need you to photograph him for tomorrow's paper. Little did I know when I started photographing him here that I'd be shooting the first photos in what would be 20 years. 20 plus years of documenting his story.
Wow.
As you can see, he lost an eye. A piece of shrapnel went through it. He lost his right hand, most of the fingers on his left hand, but his most severe injury, his abdomen was blown open.
He really has an angel, this poor guy, huh?
He did, it was like he was meant to live. It was just incredible circumstances that kept him alive. So for 6 weeks, I documented his fight to live.
And Deanne, tell us that journey, how it relates to you and your psyche. Because that's different, right? That's different from things you've shot. Now you're becoming part of the family, you're becoming part of the rehab, you're becoming part of everything in this boy's life and this family's life. How does that affect you?
Well, I guess I just have taken it on as a responsibility. This story came to me, and it was a story that wasn't being told about the war. We weren't seeing how the war was affecting Iraqi families and children. And, you know, and I just felt like I need to humanize this kid and, let people understand, what war does, what are the consequences of war. And, so I just took it seriously and I just poured my heart and soul into it and tried to capture moments that really humanized his journey.
But you at that time, as you're shooting it, you realize this is something different.
It
This is a
was
special
it
circumstance.
was really powerful. Like, my heart just hurt when
Yeah.
I first saw him. And the writer and we just had to step outside of the room and collect ourselves because what we saw was so powerful.
Mm. Mm.
There were moments of hope, but there were also moments that showed the, the reality of the consequences of war to civilians.
Mm.
And after a few weeks, he started getting better. And the first thing he drew was an airplane dropping bombs.
And how often are you shooting him now?
I would show up about, probably 2 or 3 times a week. But it was interesting because I'd often go there with the writer. And, Meredith Maish is a wonderful writer, and we have a great relationship working together. But I did find that the times I went there by myself, my photographs were stronger. Like this was one evening when I just went there myself.
Why? Why then? Why do you
Um,
feel that?
well, it's, working with a writer, we have the same goals. We want a powerful story, but they really want to be interviewing the person. They want to be talking
Mm,
to them. And I can't be capturing moments when he's looking at her, well, there was the language barrier too. That was another thing.
right.
But there's also trust, and I think it was something that I learned a little bit early on, like maybe with that Bond story is I need to be honest. And so I told them through an interpreter, I told his dad, I want to tell the true story of what happened to your son. So it was just like being honest and being real.
And that collaboration, you're the writer Meredith, she got it. She understood where you were coming from.
Yes, yes, yeah. You
To
know,
her credit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like you always find these writers that you really connect with who you
Mm.
work together and the product is elevated. You just help each other. And we would just dig into the story and try to figure it out.
Because
So
I mean, the lesson there is really less is more, right?
yeah,
One person is better than two.
I think so. Everyone works differently, but for me, it was better when there were certain times it was better when we were together, but it's kind of a special dynamic when it's just you there.
Right.
But after 6 weeks, they left the hospital, and we thought they were going to go back to Iraq and be reunited with the mom and the other kids. However, insurgents had ransacked the family home and they weren't able to go back. Insurgents thought that Rahim must be an American spy, and that's why his child's getting treatment in America.
Mm.
So they got an apartment in Oakland. And as much as he was jumping for joy on his bed in the last photo, there were some tough moments. He out in the world, he was in a grocery store with his dad, and people were staring at him. He forgot to wear the dark glasses that he usually wore to hide his missing eye. And he got so upset here, he went running out of the store crying and started running out into the street. His dad had to go pick him up, and here, Salah just falls to his dad's feet crying. And I think it seemed like he was realizing that he was never going to see his mom and siblings again.
Mhm. So that, I mean, are there moments that you document where it really cuts you through yourself, right? I mean,
Oh,
watching
yeah.
watching a moment like that, you're a human being as well. I mean, that's got to be pretty tough,
Oh, this was so hard to lift my camera up and photograph this moment because as a human, you want to go console.
right?
And Rahim didn't know what to do. He hadn't done most of the parenting, back in Iraq, and
Right.
he just was beside himself. And I just wanted to go hug Salah. But as a journalist, I needed to stand back and capture this moment so I could show the highs and the lows so that people could feel something when they view this story. And so, sometimes it's body language. I lift my camera halfway and see how they react and then shot the photo.
Right.
I
So
shot.
part of it is witness, but part of it is human, and part of it is sensitivity, right? It's all those things combined, right? Because you
Exactly.
can't miss a
Yeah.
moment. You can't miss a moment like that,
Right.
but you got to capture it for the other. Like so, always in the back of your mind, as a journalist, it's the story I'm capturing here, right? That's the important. That's the important thing, so the world can see what is after war.
Right. And I just go along with it, like I don't have a preconceived notion. Like this day, they had just moved into their apartment. And I said, oh, I'm just going to show up. Like sometimes I would show up when there was something important happen, like a surgery scheduled. And sometimes I just show up.
Right.
And that's what this day was. I'd show up, wonder what life is like now that he's out of the hospital. And then, all these moments unfold. And Rahim got a job as a custodian at the hospital that saved Salah. And he was applying for asylum for his family to come to America, and they were granted that.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so Meredith and I, we went to Iraq. Here we are at the border of Iraq and Jordan, meeting up with the family. This is Salah's mom, three siblings, and this is Rahim's brother who had helped them
Wow.
get to the border. And so we went there and we just traveled with them.
So this is also a testament to the journal, right? Or are we at the journal still?
This
Or
is at the San
Chronicle?
Francisco Chronicle, 100%. Yeah, that
Right. Like they're
they believed
behind
in
this
it.
now and they're going to spend real money to send you, right? It's gone to the next level.
That's right. They made a real commitment to this story. And, I'm so grateful. Yeah, the editors just believed in this story and they said, go. They gave us the resources and the time we needed to do this story right.
Could you
This
do
is
that today, Deanne?
Oh boy, it's harder. It's harder now. The Chronicle still has a good, strong staff. It's smaller than when I was there. They have a great director of photography, Nicole Fruget, who believes in powerful storytelling. But it's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
get resources. But she does. She puts resources towards telling deep and powerful stories.
Because there must be, a garbage pail filled with great stories that economics didn't allow it to happen,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
right? I
That's
mean,
why I know that's why journalism is so important. And, we just have to figure out creative ways to fund these stories to get them told.
mm. So now we're at the airport.
Yeah, yeah. This is at San Francisco International Airport. This is the moment when Salah and Rahim first see the family.
Right. And how much time had passed, Deanne, since they saw her?
It was over a year. I think it was like a year and 2 months because he first came to America in October of 2003, and this was December of 2004. So, so
And yeah, and are you constantly having to sell the story to the editors, to the
no,
to the no, I mean they
it
were in
was
all along.
Yeah, it was kind of the opposite. There would be times when I would say to my editor, I would say, I think I'm done with this story.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And they said, no, no, you're not, because it just gets hard. It gets hard. But, I had great editors. I mean, my main photo editor on this was Kathleen Hennessy, and she's an incredible photo editor, and we're still really good friends. She lives close to me, and I saw her last week.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
yeah. So, like in the last photo, that was the end of the Pulitzer Project. So that was awarded the Pulitzer in 2005. But then I just continued documenting his story over the years as he grew up.
Yeah, and Deanne, give us a little sense of this bond for the group that wins the Pulitzer. Because now you're connected forever, right? Historically, spiritually, creatively. What is that like?
Yeah, sometimes it's still hard to believe because it's, very prestigious to have won that award. But the big thing is that this story was seen far and wide, and it still is being seen far and wide because of the Pulitzer. So I feel like my work just gained so much more weight. Like I said, I put my heart and soul into this project. And, and now people can understand the journey that Salah went through and, what he has had to deal with. And, it just talks about war. Here we are, in war again. It's just ongoing. And, it's just a way for people to think about the consequences of what we do with bombs, these
So,
cluster bombs that are out there.
and how many people shared that Pulitzer? How does that,
Okay, so yes, just so everyone knows, every year there are two Pulitzers awarded. One is in feature photography and one is in news photography. And they can be for a single image or a body of work. This one for a body of work, it was the 20 images. So sometimes it can be one like by an individual, like, this was an individual Pulitzer. Renee Byers was individual. You saw her project
Yep.
recently. But then sometimes they'll award it to a whole staff, like the staff of the New York Times or something. So I don't know. I think we always feel like it's got some special gravitas, when it's a single photographer has done
Mm,
a project.
okay.
But it never ends for Salah. It's really hard for him to get a job. And, here he's working as a security guard at Walmart, and it's hard. He still hasn't got proper prosthetics and, but he has a lot of drive and, he's just such a good person. And, life's just hard for
Yeah.
him.
And how old is he now, Dan?
He's 30.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. But he did meet a wonderful woman from Iraq. The families knew each other. Fatima is her name, and she came to America a few years ago. They got married, and now they have a beautiful baby boy.
Ah, there you go. Great.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so this will be a story that you'll keep covering, huh, Deanne?
I think so. Yeah. For as long as Salah will have me in his life, I'll keep showing up. He's just been really gracious in allowing me to keep showing up, documenting his story.
Well, I mean, he gets that you care, right? I mean, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
fundamental.
And we've talked about it, and he realizes that it's important that his story gets out there too. So my hometown on Cape Cod,
Yeah.
they put
Oh,
up,
wow.
yeah, they put up signs all over the town. There's one here on the Sagamore Bridge, one on the Bourne Bridge, over the Cape Cod Canal, and various different entry points into town, which was really nice
You're a rock star.
in some circles.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of wind through a few other stories here. I went to New York I wanted to learn video. So I went to learn with Brian Storm at Media Storm, and I had to come up with a project. So I found this circus performer, Chrissy Cocktail, out at Coney Island. And, it's just, I'm always looking for interesting characters in my work, and she definitely fit the bill.
Mhm.
But she's a mom also, and I was just intrigued by the choices that she made, and the choices we can make in America, where you can be a mom and you can be a circus performer. She is the knife throwing target for Throwdini at the Coney Island Circus Sideshow.
You can't make that one up, right?
I know. Talk about fearless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is Alyssa Liu. She's our gold medalist in figure skating. She just won the gold in the last Olympics, earlier this year. And Sports Illustrated had asked me to photograph her a few years ago when she was a teenager.
Mhm. And where is that, Dan?
In Oakland. So
Oh,
she's right here in the Bay Area.
right.
And, kind of an interesting story. Her father was involved in protesting Tiananmen Square and came to America. And he is kind of interesting. He really came to America for opportunity. And then here he raises this girl, Alyssa Liu, to be a gold medalist. And, here she is. She lives in Chinatown. And, she does homeschooling. And so it was really exciting to see her win gold. She became overwhelmed with it all and retired a few years ago. And then she worked
Okay.
her way back. So just incredible character. Now, I talk about curiosity sometimes leads to stories. So I was on an airplane, I was flying to Seattle, and down the aisle comes this really intriguing woman. She's like 6 foot tall, short, spiky hair, lots of tattoos. And I was going to say, as luck would have it, but she ends up sitting next to me. And I start talking to her and I learn her story. And, it's just fascinating. I learned that she grew up in a fundamentalist Christian family. As a teenager, she rebelled and she became addicted to drugs and alcohol. Then she became sober, became a stand up comedian, and then she became a ordained Lutheran pastor. And it's just like she's telling me this, and I'm saying, wow.
How
And
long is that flight? From where was it?
I know,
Oh,
I know. It was from San Francisco to Seattle.
that's
So
not that long. Yeah.
no, I know. But she was on a book tour for her best-selling book. And I said to her, her name's Nadia Bolz-Weber, and I also learned that she started this church in Denver called House for All Saints and Sinners. And I said, I would love to come to Denver and photograph you and your church. And she says, oh, no way. My congregation would not want that.
Wow.
And, and I said,
Now you got to go, right?
oh. So, as she's getting off the plane, she says, if you're really serious about wanting to come to Denver, you can find me on Twitter. So turns out, I figure I'll give myself a week or so, see if I'm still thinking about her and that story. But next thing I know, I'm walking into her church in Denver. And it turned out that the Washington Post was doing a story on her and needed photos. And she says, oh, I just met this photographer, Deanne Fitzmaurice, on a plane. They said, oh, yeah, yeah, we know Deanne. So they connected us, and I ended up going there and doing that story.
Wow.
And her congregation was just really interesting. It would be standing room only, and an interesting combination of people, some, suburban baby boomers, some punk teenagers, just a real cross section of people. And she preached and talked openly about recovery and failure and grace and faith.
Wow.
And I found out she maintained her armor by getting up at 6 a.m. doing CrossFit.
Wow.
And I went back to her home, met her husband, and she had 2 teenage kids and also a Great Dane.
I mean, that is a classic story of talk to anybody wherever you are, right? Like you're on a plane, you could easily have said, oh no, I got this one next to me. Instead, you engaged and had this great story, right? I mean, it's beautiful.
I I think so, yeah. So I wanted to share this story for that reason because
Yeah, it's
I
great.
think I think there are just so many stories out there that need to be told, and we just have to be open to them and follow through. See, I was ready to fly to Denver. I'm thinking, oh, geez, am I gonna have to like buy another flight and put myself up? But it's just you make the step forward, and it seems like serendipity jumps in and takes
Mm,
hold.
yeah.
So Huey Lewis's manager reached out to me a few years ago. He was doing a new album. I think this was like 2021, 2022, and asked me to photograph the album cover. So it was great. I've always been a big fan of Huey Lewis, and his album was going to be called Weather. And so we wanted to go to the Golden Gate Bridge on a foggy day. That all worked out. We got lucky. Oops, I shouldn't say that. But we had people, we chose August for that reason. Um, his band members were all coming from different parts of the country. So it all came together.
Great.
And let's see, I was in Portugal. I was teaching a workshop there, and I heard about a bullfight. So I wanted to go out and photograph that. But I found behind the scenes way more interesting than the actual bullfight. All these matadors, they're getting ready, they're getting all primped up. It was just really fascinating. And again,
So
it's behind the scenes.
yeah, and as you reach out to this group, is your calling card the Pulitzer? Like, how do you get into that, like behind the scenes of this? Because that can't be easy.
Let's see. How did I do it on
Or
this
just in
one?
general, like how do you navigate that?
Yeah. Um, I just think you have to figure out who's the right person to talk to. And, a
Mm,
lot of times you can find that information on the website, like a public relations person. And a lot of times people want photographs. And, sometimes I will offer them photographs, and so you just figure it out. And so
yeah,
I just, reach out to them and I send them my website so they get to see that, okay, yeah, she's a legit photographer.
serious, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So I got this great project a few years ago. I think it was 2022. A museum in Dublin, Ireland, reached out to me and said, "We would like to commission you to come to Dublin and document Dublin from an outsider's perspective for a book." So it was like this dream project.
I
So
was you took the word right out of my mouth. Are you living a dream or what?
it
Holy
was a dream project. Yeah. So I took about 6 trips over there during the course of a couple of years. And, some of it was, I would do research and figure things out. But, I didn't want to photograph the touristy things. They didn't want that either. I was looking for moments, and you can't photograph Dublin without getting some kind of a photo of Guinness. And I was in a pub one night. I think I was just there getting a beer, but of course I have my camera there, and I look, and there's this young guy clearing tables. I was like, what?
and so a book was published, Dan?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the book came out. Let's see, I've got it right here. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but
Yeah, we can.
yeah, so on Dublin, yeah, it just came out in February. And this,
And we can get that on your website?
um, I have it linked on my link tree at the moment. I'm redoing my website. God, this is a lot of excuses, isn't it? One really easy way to get it is to go to, it's called the Little Museum of Dublin. And if you go there to their website, you can find the book. You go to like store and you can
Let's see if Jay could find that and put that in the chat rooms.
yeah,
Try to
yeah.
get you to buy some books.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll have it up on my website shortly too. I have it on my LinkedIn bio also. But just street photography, walking around looking for interesting moments. This is what they call a hen party. Here we call it a bachelorette party, but they call it a hen party, which I loved. And you see a lot of the street busker musicians there, and so it was nice to be able to incorporate that in as well.
So it's six, you said 6 trips, Dan?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
And for how much altogether, how much time
Yeah, I'd usually spend about 6 days there. Yeah,
each trip?
yeah, yeah.
What a
So
project. And they put you up and all of that, huh?
yeah, yeah, we worked it out. It wasn't a huge money-making
Right.
project, but it was just, really gratifying being
I
able
bet.
to document that, and I'm half Irish, you can probably tell. And it's like I think that helped get me the gig. It's if your last name is Fitzmaurice, you have an in on an Irish book.
Yeah, I would say that's great. Wow.
Yeah. So I saw this thing happening where the seagulls were just relentless there and they would come down and grab people's sandwiches and things. And I said, I got to figure out how I can capture this. And so I was photographing this flower lady on Grafton Street, and her nephew was there. He was like, Justin, he was around 30. And I'm saying, Justin, it's like, I see these birds. Can you tell me how am I going to absolutely capture this thing? And he says, okay, yeah, I can tell you how it works. Just come back here around 12 noon. People are coming out of McDonald's, and these birds, they wait right up there, on the top of that building. And I said, okay. So the next day I came back around noon and he was helping me too. He was going, okay, here comes someone. They're just coming out of McDonald's now. And so I'd see them and I'd just stay focused on them. And yeah, and I've actually got, this is a 3-picture series. This is just the third picture in the
Yeah,
series.
and for everyone, the book, Jay put the link there in the chat room, so you
Oh,
can pull it
nice.
up from there.
That's good. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, and this
Wow.
was on Bloomsday. The James Joyce author has, Bloomsday and um, in remembrance of his book. And so I was there for that. So I tried to be there when some interesting things were happening. And then, I had to get a good redhead person. And it was really interesting. They have this horse trading fair, which was fascinating. And so I, was able to go to that a couple times and just like all these it was like kind of this inner city culture where a lot of the people have horses and they come together. And so it was just fascinating to see. This was the
Wow.
first gay bar in Ireland, is in Dublin. It's called George's. This was drag night.
Yeah. We had someone on a couple of weeks ago, Michelle Zomer, who documented the Irish travelers.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a really interesting story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I had to include Gaelic football, and so I went out one night, and these guys were doing sprints, and it was a cold night, and so I just saw after he was doing sprints, I just saw this steam emitting from him. So I kind of positioned myself so he was kind of backlit by this kind of
Mm,
street light, and was able to capture that.
beautiful.
But and of course, it's like all these fires are happening here in California, and so I've been trying to document them. But also there's a lot of heartache photographing this. But then you see
Yeah. How
these
beautiful.
yeah, like these sweet moments where these people lost their home. It was around Christmas time, and they still went out and put their Christmas stockings up. So looking for these little moments that humanize.
Genuine. Yeah, real
Yeah.
genuine, right? Beautiful.
Then I went over to Maui for that fire, the Lahaina fire, a couple years ago. NPR sent me over there, and I worked with a great team there. And it's a place that you would not expect there to be a major fire.
Right.
Hawaii, it's so lush, but it touched everyone. This girl, she lost. It was like it's the most deadly fire in the U.S. 99 people lost their lives, and this young girl, her school burnt down. She lost classmates,
Really. Mm.
but it was heartwarming to see how everyone came together. The roads were closed and people just got on boats and jet skis to try to bring supplies to people before they had a good system set up. Everyone just pitched in. And so I was able to document some of that effort. And then NPR sent me back there 6 months later, and they had this memorial set up, for the 99 people that had died up on the hillside over Lahaina. And I was there photographing it, and this incredible rainbow appeared.
When you say they sent me back, is that them sending you back, or you saying, I'd like to go back? Would you be interested in sending me?
They reached out to me, but I think I had reached out in between and said, hey, I've learned about these other stories. I'd like to go back. And those didn't happen. But at this moment, it's always just like an alignment of things where they decided to do a 6-month anniversary
Right.
piece.
You
Uh,
really always got to be cognizant of timelines and reaching back out to folks, right? Like you can't really get off the radar,
right, right.
right?
So
That's the
true.
job. That's the other part of the job.
Yep. And this was in Florence just about a year ago. It's just one of those things you go walking past. I was with my husband, and we were on vacation, and some friends, and we went walking past right in front of the Uffizi Museum. I saw this shaft of light, and I'm thinking, "Whoa, that's spectacular!" But there was really nothing happening there. And so I said, I'm coming back the next night. And I told Kurt, I said, why don't you and your friends and our friends just go have a drink or something? I'll catch up with you in an hour. So I just went back there. I knew at 6 o'clock this light would be there. And there was a ballerina there. I could not believe it. Yeah.
That's making your luck.
Well,
Right.
partially, yeah, because I knew the light was there. And
Right.
it's about putting all these elements together. I knew the light was there. So I had one thing going for me, and I just needed something interesting to happen within that space.
Right.
And a lot of times it doesn't happen, but once in a while it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a few things. I've had a couple of photo exhibits over the last couple of years. This was at Perpignan, Visa pour l'image, and it was my Salah project. It was so last fall, and yeah, they ran they hung 37 images telling the story of Salah's journey. So it was a real honor to have the work shown there.
Yeah.
And then in January, as you know, I was lucky to be invited to Exposure to have an exhibit there in Dubai. And it was a kind of a cross section of different projects that I've done. But what an incredible experience. And a highlight was getting to see you there, Frank.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was really wonderful.
And our friend David Burnett shot this photo.
Yeah. He
Okay.
gets to get a credit.
Yep. Yeah. So now I'm just going to wrap up this show with some of the new work that I've been doing. Back to what I started with, talking about just getting out into America, doing a project, layering images in camera. Now, we can layer images in Photoshop, but this is all done in camera. And I'm doing that way because it feels like it maintains the purity for me, the journalistic integrity. It's usually two or more things I find in one scene, and I'm layering them in camera to tell a deeper and more nuanced story.
How did the thought come to you though, Diane? Deanne, like what was the moment I can do this, I can try this, and let's see if it works, and then realizing it works. Like
Right.
give us the metamorphosis on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of my close friends, Renee Lynn, who lives in Santa Fe, she's been doing beautiful work of multiple exposures and ICM with nature. She mostly photographs nature,
Mm.
flowers and, just her images are absolutely beautiful. They're very painterly. And I was just so impressed watching what she was doing. And I thought, wow, that'd be kind of interesting. But I'm not really a nature photographer. But anyway, I told you in the beginning how I just went out to Route 66. Okay, I'm just going to start documenting. But then I said, I'm going to start playing around with this multiple exposure because I think I needed something new and something different. And I am
Mm.
having so much fun with this. So this image is I photographed a church. It's one of the oldest churches in America. So I photographed the church, and that's what the graveyard is about, and the doorway and the window. And then behind me was Route 66. So that's my second frame. So just these two images um, merged together in camera.
And when do you know, wow, I got this? This hits all the buttons I need from a creative standpoint. Like
Well,
how does that work for you, Deanne?
there's a lot of trial and error. It's like so many times it doesn't work, and I keep trying and trying and trying. And finally,
Right.
I get it. And when you get it, it's like, oh, wow, okay, this came together. This is really working now. And yeah, and then I'm ready to move on. This is do you know the Green Book motels? And it was so that Black travelers in the 40s were able to stay safely in motels along Route 66. And
Is that right?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And there were certain motels where they could stay, and some of them still exist. And this is one of them. So I photographed the motel and layered it in a reflection.
Yeah, and so how do you do a double exposure in a DSLR?
Well, a lot of the mirrorless cameras have this capability. Some do and some don't. With my Nikon, I'm able to do it. And, there are just some settings that you go into and, just set it on multiple exposure. I can set it on whether I want to photograph two images or more than two. And so this is one of the oldest homes in America. And so I photographed that, layered it with a tree. I went to a reservation where they're bringing back the buffalo. So I photographed a buffalo and layered it with the sagebrush that is, their native lands. This is the end of Route 66 in Santa Monica.
Wait, Deanne, how do you go from hardcore photojournalist, Super Bowl to fine art? I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, like, is it unnerving to you, or is it just like the natural progression of a career?
Well, if you think about it, I talked about how I started at the Academy of Art. So maybe I've
Yeah.
gone full circle.
Yep. Yeah,
And
it's great.
I'm having so much fun with it, because it feels like it is kind of bringing me back to my, early days in fine art.
So here's a question. Do you layer the images during the same shot, or do you select the images from the other shoots?
Um, you can do it either way as long as it's on your memory card. So sometimes I do it when I'm on scene there, and I'm able to set it up so that I can see a faint image of my previous shot, so I know
Mm,
how I want to line things up.
okay.
And this was Cadillac Ranch out along Route 66 in Amarillo, Texas.
Right. So, I mean, like this must be the light bulb flashing off in your brain all the time, like this new, like it rejuvenates you.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I just can't wait. And everywhere we go, okay, so everything I've shown so far, it's all Route 66, kind of, yeah, it's all Route 66. But now I've been doing it wherever I travel. So after
Barcelona.
Perpignan, about a year ago, yeah, Barcelona. And it's the famous Gaudi architecture, Sangria Familia. And so I photographed that and I photographed the tile that's related to this architect and layered them together. And this is in Italy. So kind of wherever I go, I'm doing this and, just photographing a building and the water. And
And
this was in Malaysia.
hmm. And is it I'm doing this and I can't go back, or I'm doing this as I'm doing this now? Like, how does that work for you in your head? To go into this space all in, and if CNN or someone calls you to document behind the scenes at a runway show, you can easily switch back.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no problem at all. But of course, I'm going to be trying to incorporate some of these into
Yeah.
every assignment.
It's great.
Yeah, yeah. So that is the end of my show. So,
Wow. Wow.
so
That is really an enriching combination. So stop sharing. If anyone has any questions, raise your hand, put it in the chat room. Anything you want, Deanne's here to answer any question. That is really spectacular. What an inspiring journey.
Oh, thank you so much. There was
Yeah.
a lot of work there, but hopefully, yeah, it'll inspire people. And I think there's just something about just kind of following your heart and following your instinct about, what's exciting. And right now, I am so excited about this new work. So, oh,
Yeah,
look at all these comments.
yeah, Jay, somebody raised their hand. Let's see who iPhone is.
Oh, that's nice. Yes, you're welcome for bringing think tank products to us. Yeah, I was really fortunate to, my husband and I, co-founders of Think Tank, where we were both working at the paper, and it felt like the bags that we needed didn't exist. And so it was just, it was an incredible combination. My husband Kurt's really good at designing and figuring things out. And we teamed up with, incredible designers. Doug Murdoch, he's the CEO of our company, an incredible So he runs things. It's his brainchild, and we're just lucky to be able to help and have an impact in the business. And it's just so rewarding to go to all these events and see so many of our bags out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jay, somebody has their hand up.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you're on.
Hello, Dan. Listen, you were fabulous. Unbelievable. I just want to find out, will you ever do a documentary? Because that's one thing I wish you could do and share it with others.
Okay,
Is there,
I didn't catch the question.
she wants you to do a
A
documentary, but
documentary, ever think
but
about?
but on any specific topic?
Well, basically, yeah. I mean, anything that she thinks is relevant to our country now, and knowing that you stand for another type of entity in your work. I mean, to let people be aware and see what you're doing.
Well, she does, talks like this, right? And yeah, Deanne, you do workshops, is that right?
I do. Yeah, yeah.
And we
Yes.
can find them on your website?
Yes, but I do
Okay.
have to tell everyone I'm in the process of redesigning my website. It's going to go live about a month from now, and it'll be way better in terms of talking about workshops I have and also,
Okay.
yeah, and I'm gonna, but I mean, I try to update things on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, and I'll try to, keep that updated when I'm teaching workshops and yeah, and I also do some, private coaching as well. So there are definitely ways that we can work together if you're interested.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Yeah. I mean, you have to read some of these things in the chat room, from Karen. I'm not going to crucify her name. Deanne, this presentation has been so inspirational. Serendipity, a client gave me a cue, and I've been thinking about street photography. When we met, I attended your Palm Springs photo workshop, and my photography has been all about wildlife and opening myself up to new opportunities. This presentation is both lucky and serendipity. All the best to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Deanne.
So nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kevin, I mean, your beautiful comments in there. So what's next, Deanne? Where are we going? What are you doing? Do you stay with the double exposures? Is there a book? Like, do you fantasize about doing a coffee table book on it? Like, what are you doing?
Oh boy, what am I doing? So, yeah, I'm doing some workshops, I'm doing some speaking events, doing some editorial assignments. I want to keep working on my multiple exposures, kind
Yeah.
of telling the story of America.
Right.
Um, yeah, I've built a talk called America 250 that kind of pulls together a lot of these stories that I've done. And I have a wonderful speaking agent, change maker talent, and I've got probably about six or so talks coming up around the country. So, like over the next year in outside Chicago and Kansas City and
Wow.
Tennessee and North Carolina or South Carolina. So anyway, yeah, just lots of different things like that. Continuing my work with Think Tank to figure out the best bags that need to be made and, how we can just keep making better bags that solve these problems for, how we save our backs as photojournalists and make it so that we can carry this equipment long term and access our equipment.
So you're not going to be doing much. My God, I mean that's what I mean, but it keeps you inspired, it keeps you young, it keeps you engaged. I mean that's probably one of the hardest jobs that we have, right? Is to stay engaged
Yeah.
as we're in our careers. That's
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Which just makes me think, I want my piece of advice really is to just get out there. Hello, Mark.
yeah, it is. Mark came up
Oh,
with
nice to see
it.
you. But I think,
Fantastic.
to just go out and start it, just stories are everywhere. Like the person you sit next to on the airplane. Um,
My God, that's a great story.
Yeah, and then going out photographing the urban cowgirl, which ended up, I did on my own, but then it gets published in
Yeah,
Cosmopolitan.
that's what I want to ask you. With the exposures that you're working with now, are you constantly telling all of your contacts, I'm doing this project, so they're somewhat engaged? Like, how do you work that so that you end up on Sunday morning CBS or
Ah,
or
yeah, yeah,
CNN?
yeah. I mean, about the new work that I'm
Yeah,
doing.
like like just letting them know, and
Well,
then
my new website is part of that because I really haven't shown this work much. At exposure, there were 5 of these images
right.
displayed, but I haven't really shown it too much yet. And so I'm just kind of beginning that and kind of figuring out where I'm going with it.
Mm,
So that's kind of in process. But I think with my new website, I'm going to do a newsletter where I'll be talking about things like this. And so
right.
that'll all launch in about 3 or 4 weeks. So I hope everyone will go and look at my new website and sign up for my newsletter, and so we
Mm,
can keep engaged and stay in touch.
yeah. Diana has a question. Let's see if we can unmute
Deanne,
her, Jay.
hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Deanne. It was a wonderful, very inspirational, very creative presentation. I just wanted to know, will your travels um, bring you to New York or in the Northeast when you're speaking engagements or your workshops?
I do get to the Northeast a lot. My family's in Massachusetts, so I get there quite a bit. I am teaching at the Eddie Adams Workshop this fall. I've taught there probably 12 out of the last 15 years. So it's the Eddie Adams Workshop.
Yeah,
And
I'll be there.
Right.
So we'll
fantastic.
see each
Okay,
other.
excellent. Okay, come find me and we'll talk.
Totally. Thank you.
So I get to know you better. Okay, that sounds great. So that would be a good place for us to connect.
So that's a full plate, and we can catch you in different parts of the country and different parts of the world. And so you're going to continue. Do you continue it as a Route 66 project or an American project or both?
I'm kind of doing both, really.
Yeah.
I'm doing both. So I'll be going out to Route 66 some more, and I'll just be doing some kind of broader America um, um, topics as
Yeah.
well.
And do you think of it in a seasonal standpoint as well, Route 66? Like, I want to get there in the winter, I want to get there in the dead of the summer. Like, do you think in those terms as well?
Yeah, I have like that buffalo photo that
Right.
was in the snow. So I am trying to think about that. Right now there's a lot of activity on Route 66 because of the 100th anniversary.
Right.
So it has a different feel right now than it usually does.
Right. Great. Well, as you saw in the chat room there, I mean, everyone is humbled by you. You're very incredibly inspirational. Like you're doing it. You have a childlike enthusiasm, which is just great. I mean, that's totally intoxicating. Really, really, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. So with that, I thank everyone for coming. I thank Deanne. I just want to make one little really quick announcement. We're celebrating, or we're going to commemorate the 25th anniversary, if you could believe it, of 9/11. And we're going to do 6 nights straight of 30 different photographers presenting from September 6th through the 11th. So just, you'll get notices about it, but I just want the people here to have heard that information. But Deanne, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're busy, and we really do appreciate you doing this. You know,
Yeah,
thank
well, I appreciate what you do. And I just think it's such a great service for the photo community. So thank you from all of us for hosting this. And yeah, and thank you everybody for showing up tonight and sharing in this crazy journey. And feel free to keep in touch with me. And I hope you find a little piece of inspiration that helps with your next project.
and get the website done.
Oh, I will. Oh, I'm working with this team and it's like deadlines every
Is
day.
that right? Great.
Okay.
Because usually when someone says, 3 weeks a month, and it's longer than that, but
Oh no, I've got
yeah,
these
great,
deadlines. Oh yeah.
great,
It's like every
good.
day I have a deadline for a certain aspect of the project. So that's what I need. Keeps
Yeah,
keeps
yeah,
me
yeah.
honest. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we'll all look forward to the website, and thank you, Deanne. And everyone, keep on enjoying your summers.
Okay.
Stay
Thank
dry.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.